Linda Gentry, our executive director, and the volunteers all work to prepare period-appropriate foods. And what you're enjoying today comes from Civil War era recipes. Some of what you're eating is corn muffins. Every Civil War soldier with his rations would have gotten cornmeal. So they would have had access to cornbread, Johnny cakes, and this is basically our nod to tradition by the little mini corn muffins. We also have Josephine Pfeffer's 1860 Wisconsin gingerbread. We know that they had gingerbread in the Civil War because Civil War nurse Belle Reynolds in April of 1862 tended the wounded down in Arkansas. Her diaries record how she bathed and bandaged their wounds and distributed the small available supply of bread and jelly. Finding a sutler's stand, she bought a supply of gingerbread, which she called singular food for sick men, but very acceptable. We also have applesauce cookies. Not necessarily the kind of cookie your taste is used to today, not as sweet, not as rich. During the Civil War, there were 4 foods that caused more fights within the ranks than anything else. Bread, meat, apples, and of all things, pickles, the lowly pickles. There are records of soldiers being court-martialed, beaten almost to death, and even shot over apples as they went foraging. There's also a wonderful dessert back there with a name that I love. It's called Idiot's Cake or Idiot's Delight. It was made from commonly available ingredients and said to be so easy that, quote, even an idiot could make it. Naturally, we could not resist that one. We have hardtack. It was the one thing every soldier, whether he was Union or Confederacy, carried in his rucksack. It's almost like it was the Spam of the Civil War. It was the one thing they kind of loved to hate. Basically, it's a simple cracker made of flour and water, mixed and rolled into a thickness of about 3/8 of an inch, cut into squares, poked with a fork to speed baking. It's been described as indestructible, imperishable, practically inedible, too hard to chew, too small for shoeing mules, and too big to use as bullets. Usually it was moldy and infested with all kinds of critters, from weevils to worms to maggots. The soldiers called them worm castles and were so disgusted they would crumble them up and throw them into the bottom of the trenches. When the officers of the day would reprimand the men, the inevitable response would be, "We've thrown it out 2 or 3 times, sir, but it keeps crawling back." You'll be happy to know we're serving our hardtack today with nothing more sinister than jam. And a warning for anyone with sensitive teeth, take care. We've got lemonade and coffee. We know that lemonade was a favorite with everyone. Cornelia Hancock, who was a Civil War nurse, tended the wounded and actually wrote in her diary from Gettysburg on July 7th, 1863, 4 surgeons were busy all day amputating legs and arms. I gave to every wounded in 3rd Division 1 glass of lemonade, some bread and preserves and tobacco, for they need it very much. They are so exhausted. And finally, both sides loved their coffee. The Union was fortunate enough to have a steady supply of coffee beans, raw, green, that had to first be roasted somehow over an open fire without being burnt, and then cracked with rifle butts before it could be brewed. The Confederacy was not so lucky. They were subject to blockades that impeded the flow of food, equipment, and arms. So they were forced to substitute and often made coffee with things like chicory, burnt corn, peas, potatoes, peanuts, and even acorns that they would forage in the fall and the winter, with the kind of results you can imagine.